Before we dive into today's intense story, a quick reminder. Over 90% of our viewers watch our videos but aren't subscribed. If you enjoy content like this, take a second to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. And if you find this story gripping, don't forget to like the video. It really helps us out.
Emily. That's my name. I don't know if saying it out loud makes this any easier to confess, but it feels like I owe the truth my voice. Maybe I owe myself that, too. I never imagined I'd be the kind of woman who'd sit down and recount how she ruined her own marriage and then picked up the pieces in ways no one would expect. But here I am, telling you every part of it, so you'll understand that nothing is ever as simple as good wife, bad wife. Sometimes it's just a lonely woman staring at herself in the mirror, wondering when exactly she disappeared. I married Ryan when I was 25. He was 28 and fresh into his first real job that paid him enough to think we could build a life without worrying about bills all the time. I loved him. I really did. I know people say that to excuse what they did later, but I swear on every sleepless night I've had since, I loved him more than anything. We were young, hopeful, maybe a little naive, but we wanted the same things. A small house with a garden, Sunday dinners with family, trips we'd save for even if it meant we ate ramen noodles for a month. The first few years were good. Hard, but good. We rented a cramped apartment with peeling paint and neighbors who fought so loudly we learned to sleep through shouting matches. We shared a tiny bathroom, brushed our teeth while stepping around each other, laughed when the water turned cold in the middle of winter. We fought, too, about money. About whose turn it was to call the landlord, about stupid little things that felt so big when we were exhausted. But we always made up. We always found our way back to each other. Then we bought the house. I remember signing the papers, my hands trembling like I'd just run a marathon. Ryan squeezed my knee under the table, his smile saying we did it. That house was supposed to be the start of everything. We painted the bedroom walls yellow because I read somewhere that yellow made you wake up happier. We planted rose bushes in the front yard, fought weeds together every weekend, hosted barbecues where his friends would gather and laugh about college days while I brought out trays of drinks, trying to be the perfect hostess. But life changes quietly. Not in some big, dramatic thunderclap. It's small things. Ryan started coming home later and later, always with the same excuse, work. And it was true mostly. He was working hard. Promotions came with longer hours, more travel. He'd drop his suitcase by the door and fall asleep on the couch before I could even ask how his trip was. I didn't blame him at first. We needed the money. We needed the security. He wanted to give me everything, and I wanted to believe that was enough. I got lonely. There's no soft way to say it. The house got bigger when he wasn't there to fill it with his voice. Dinners turned into me eating alone, pushing food around my plate while the TV played in the background. I joined a book club, then quit because no one really read the books, they just gossiped and drank wine. I took up painting. I signed up for yoga. I volunteered at the community center. But none of it fixed the ache that settled in my chest every night when I climbed into a cold bed alone. Then there was Adam. He was a contractor we hired to fix a leak in the basement. I remember opening the door that first morning and feeling so embarrassed that I hadn't brushed my hair yet. He smiled, said, "Don't worry, ma'am, I've seen worse," and laughed like we'd known each other for years. He was kind, warm, easy to talk to. He'd work while I made coffee upstairs, and soon it became a ritual. He'd come up for a cup, we'd chat about his kids, his ex-wife, the weather, whatever. It felt innocent at first, two people passing time. But talking turned into lingering. He'd ask about Ryan, where he was, what he did, when he'd be home. I didn't see the trap then. I thought Adam was just being polite. Maybe he was at first. Maybe he saw the sadness in my eyes that I refused to admit to myself. Maybe he knew exactly how to dig into it. I don't want to make excuses. I could say I was vulnerable. I could say Adam was persistent. I could say I didn't mean for it to happen. But the truth is, I made choices. I chose to keep talking when I knew I shouldn't. I chose to linger by the basement stairs, listening to him work. I chose to answer his text messages when he somehow ended up with my number. It wasn't love. I need you to know that. It wasn't escape. A stolen hour here, a hidden smile there, the rush of feeling wanted when I hadn't felt that in so long. It was pathetic, really. I see that now. But when you're drowning in your own house, you'll reach for any hand that promises to pull you up, even if that hand is dirty. I don't remember when it crossed the line from harmless conversation to something worse. Maybe the line was gone from the beginning. Maybe I erased it myself. What I do remember is the constant guilt that sat in my stomach like a stone. Every time Ryan called to say he'd be late again, I'd tell him it was fine. Then I'd look at Adam and hate myself for the tiny flicker of relief I felt. The affair didn't last long. A few months, maybe. It wasn't fireworks or passion like the movies make it seem. It was stolen moments that left me empty the second they were over. Adam wasn't my soulmate. He wasn't even kind by the end. He got demanding. He wanted more. He wanted things I wasn't ready to give. When I tried to pull back, he reminded me how easy it would be for him to tell Ryan everything. He said it so casually, like he was commenting on the weather. That's when the fear started. I ended it. I told Adam to leave, to never come back, that I'd tell Ryan myself if I had to. He laughed in my face. He said, "You won't. You can't." And for a while, he was right. I lived in fear of my own secret. I'd lie awake at night next to my husband's sleeping body and wonder if he'd look at me the same way if he knew the truth. But secrets don't stay buried. They fester. They poison you from the inside out. One evening, Ryan came home earlier than usual. He found a message from Adam on my phone. Nothing explicit, just enough to raise questions. He didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. He just looked at me like I was someone he'd never met. I confessed everything that night. The basement, the coffee, the stolen time. I didn't hide behind excuses. I didn't blame Ryan for working too much. I just told him I was sorry. Over and over, like that would undo it. He didn't say much. He packed a bag and left. I watched his car disappear down the street and knew something inside me had just died for good. I thought that was the end. I thought I'd live in this empty house, staring at yellow bedroom walls that mocked me every morning. But what I didn't know then was that the end of my marriage would be the beginning of something else. Something I never planned for. Something no one saw coming. Because the same loneliness that made me weak was about to make me ruthless. Adam thought he could ruin my life and walk away unscathed. Ryan thought he could vanish and leave me with all the blame. They were both about to learn that the quiet wife they'd underestimated was capable of far more than just crying into her pillow at night. I didn't know exactly how I'd do it yet. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to stay broken. I wasn't going to be the sad story people whispered about at parties. If they wanted betrayal, I'd show them betrayal. If they wanted consequences, I'd deliver them myself. I started with Adam. I dug through every scrap of information I had, text messages, voicemails, even receipts for the work he did on our basement. I found out things about him I wish I hadn't. I found out who he owed money to, what he did to make extra cash on the side, who else he'd gotten too close to when their husbands weren't home. And with every secret I uncovered, my fear turned into something else, power. It wasn't about revenge yet. Not fully. At first, it was just survival. If he wanted to blackmail me, I'd make sure he was too busy covering his own tracks to bother. If he wanted to ruin my life, I'd ruin his first. And Ryan? I wasn't done with him either. He didn't deserve what I did to him. But he didn't get to walk away like he was blameless either. He left me alone in this house, the same house we built together, while he hid at his brother's place, telling everyone I was the monster. I was done being the monster they whispered about. If I had to wear that crown, I'd make sure it glittered so bright they'd never forget who put it on. That's where it started. My plan. My war. My quiet revenge that would grow louder with every secret I dragged into the light. Because if my marriage was over, if my life was already ashes, then I'd make sure everyone who helped burn it down got to feel the fire too. I promise I'll tell you exactly how I did it. Every lie I told. Every move I made. Every trap I set. But that's for later. For now, just know this. I am not the same woman who stood at the door that day and smiled at the man who came to fix a leak. She's gone. And the woman who took her place is ready to do whatever it takes to make sure no one ever underestimates her again. The day after Ryan left, I sat in the living room staring at the spot where his suitcase had stood. I don't know how long I sat there. Hours, maybe. The sun went down and came back up before I even moved. I think I expected him to come back, slam the door, yell at me, demand explanations. But he didn't. He didn't even text. The silence was worse than any argument could have been. I got up eventually. I showered, scrubbed my skin raw like I could wash the betrayal off me. I made coffee I didn't drink. I fed the neighbor's cat that liked to sneak into our backyard. I did normal things to pretend my world wasn't crumbling. But every second, Adam's voice played in my head. You won't tell him. You can't. He was right about one thing. I hadn't told Ryan soon enough. But he underestimated me in every other way. The first thing I did was change my locks. Adam had never had a key, but I didn't trust him not to find a way in. Next, I blocked his number. He called from other ones, so I blocked those too. He switched to emails. I saved every single one. The threats, the half-hearted apologies, the promises that he'd ruin me if I didn't come back to him. I made a new folder on my laptop and named it insurance. The fear faded faster than I expected. Maybe it was the emptiness of the house that gave me room to think. Maybe it was the rage that started burning every time I pictured Adam laughing at how easy I'd been to fool. I stopped feeling sorry for myself. I stopped crying. I started planning. Adam had made a lot of mistakes with me, but his biggest one was thinking I wouldn't fight back. He didn't know that my father raised me to pay attention, to listen when people thought I wasn't listening, to remember the little details they let slip when they got too comfortable. While Adam worked in my basement, I learned things about him he never should have told me. His side hustles, his gambling debts, the fake invoices he used to overcharge clueless homeowners. At the time, it just felt like gossip. Now it was ammunition. I started by digging through my files. I still had the original contract for the basement work. It was sloppy, vague, the kind of thing a desperate homeowner signs because they trust the guy who says, "I'll take care of you." I found every payment I'd made to him. Some were cash, some were Venmo, some were weird transfers to his cousin's account. He thought hiding the money trail would protect him. He didn't count on me keeping every receipt. I called my friend Laura. She works for a local paper, nothing fancy but enough to know how to sniff out a story. I didn't tell her everything, just enough to get her interested. A contractor scamming homeowners with fake repairs, I said. Overbilling, shoddy work, intimidation. She asked if I had proof. I told her to check her inbox. She didn't ask how I got it. I didn't stop there. I filed a report with the city. I sent copies of my receipts, photos of the unfinished work, screenshots of his messages threatening to expose me if I didn't pay him more. It was risky, admitting my piece in this mess, but I knew Adam wouldn't risk dragging me down without dragging himself down worse. Next, I tracked down 2 other women I'd heard him mention. He'd bragged about them once, when he thought I'd find it flattering that I wasn't his only lonely housewife. I found them on Facebook, messaged them carefully. One ignored me. The other, Sandra, didn't. She'd been through the same nightmare. Different towns, same story. He'd blackmailed her, too. She'd paid him to disappear. He hadn't disappeared. He'd just moved on to me. Sandra was furious. She wanted to help. She had old messages, too. She had bank statements, photos of his shoddy work on her house. Together, we built a file thick enough to bury him. While all this was happening, Ryan stayed gone. He didn't answer my calls. He sent one text, "I need time." That was it. I let him have it. I didn't have the right to demand anything. Not yet. But I kept tabs on him anyway. Not out of jealousy, out of strategy. He was at his brother's, just like I guessed. He hadn't told his parents. He hadn't told his friends. He was protecting me in a way. Or maybe protecting himself from the humiliation. Either way, it worked for me. The less noise, the better. When the paper ran the story, I didn't expect fireworks. I just wanted Adam to know he wasn't untouchable. But it blew up bigger than I imagined. Turns out he'd scammed more than just lonely wives. He'd overcharged old people, skipped out on permits, taken deposits for jobs he never finished. Once the story hit, the city had no choice but to investigate. His phone calls stopped overnight. The silence was blissful. I thought maybe that would be enough. That maybe I could close that chapter, sweep up the ashes, and wait for Ryan to come home. But the thing about revenge is that once you taste it, you start to see how much more you can take back. Because while Adam was getting exactly what he deserved, Ryan was still gone. And the more I sat alone in that house, the angrier I got. Not at him for leaving. I deserved that. But at how easy it was for him to step out of the mess like he was some innocent victim. I'd done something unforgivable, yes. But he'd abandoned me long before Adam ever stepped through my door. He got to act like the wounded husband while I was branded the traitor. So, I did what any woman with nothing left to lose would do. I started looking for the cracks in Ryan's perfect mask. I went through our old bills, his travel receipts, the hotel points he'd never bothered to hide. I found a few things that didn't line up. Trips that didn't match the dates he'd given me. Charges for dinners at places he'd never taken me. It was petty at first. Maybe he was just entertaining clients. But then I found a name. Rachel. A charge for flowers sent to a Rachel, 2 cities away. A hotel reservation in her name, billed to his card. I didn't explode. I didn't scream. I just sat there, the cold coffee cup in my hands, and realized I wasn't the only liar in our marriage. Funny how betrayal feels different when you're the one betrayed back. It didn't excuse what I'd done, but it made it feel less like a one-sided tragedy. We were both guilty. We were both broken. The only difference was that I had nothing left to hide. So, I made a decision. I wasn't going to beg Ryan to come home anymore. I wasn't going to wait for him to forgive me while he hid his own secrets behind locked doors. If our marriage was going to burn, it was going to burn clean. No illusions left. I printed every receipt. I screenshotted every hotel booking. I found Rachel's social media and got enough to paint the picture clear as day. Then I did something Ryan never expected. I called him. Calm. Polite. I told him we needed to talk face to face. I asked him to meet me at our house, the one place he'd been avoiding like it was cursed. He came. Of course he did. He looked tired, older somehow. He sat at the kitchen table where we used to plan grocery lists and vacations. I laid out the papers in front of him. He didn't deny it. He didn't even look surprised. He just sighed and rubbed his eyes like I'd given him a migraine. I told him everything about Adam, about the threats, about what I'd done to ruin him. Then I showed him what I'd found about Rachel. For the first time in months, we were honest with each other. 2 people sitting in a house full of ghosts, finally speaking truths we'd buried for years. I don't know if he expected me to beg for another chance. I didn't. I told him we could split everything down the middle, the house, the money, the mess we made. Or we could stay married, but only if we were both ready to burn it all down and rebuild it brick by brick. No lies. No secrets. No more pretending. He didn't answer me that night. He left again, quieter than before. But he didn't slam the door. He didn't say goodbye. And when I looked around at the house, the yellow walls, the empty dinner table, the garden out front, I realized I wasn't waiting for him anymore. If he came back, fine. If he didn't, fine. Because I still had more to do. I wasn't done taking my life back from every man who thought he could define who I was. I'd buried Adam. Ryan was next, not to destroy him, but to free myself from whatever spell I'd been under all these years. I was ready to be done with secrets, but not before I finished what I started. Tell me when you're ready. The last part is the one I'm proudest of. Because that's when I stopped being someone's wife, someone's fool, someone's regret. That's when I became me again. He came back a week later. No suitcase, no excuses, just him, standing in the doorway like a man who finally saw me for who I was. We didn't speak much. We didn't promise to fix everything overnight. We just agreed to start over, honestly, painfully, completely. Adam was gone, ruined by his own games. Ryan and I were done lying, done pretending, done being strangers under the same roof. For the first time in years, I felt free, not because I won or lost, but because I reclaimed myself from all the shadows I let grow around me. This is my truth now.